The NFL Combine is now in the books and all attention turns to Nashville and the NFL Draft. There were plenty of rises and fallers in Indianapolis, but for the Eagles, that period was even more important. There were some big time contract extensions and some emotional goodbyes that have completely changed the landscape for this team heading into next month's draft. So how will it all pan out? Well, my name is Liam Jenkins and here's my projection as to what may happen in Nashville in just over a month's time. If you're new around here, guys, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button so we know you enjoy this kind of content. And don't forget to let us know in the comments who you'd be picking when the Eagles are on the clock. With the 25th pick in the NFL Draft, I have the Eagles selecting Devin Bush Jr., a linebacker out of Michigan. Undoubtedly one of the Combine's biggest winners, this 5'11", 234-pound linebacker set a scintillating 4.43 second 40-yard dash, which left fans and scouts purring. This shouldn't come as a shock though. Bush was an absolute menace during his time as a Wolverine, just like his father, and was a standout in every sense of the word. Named the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year in 2018 with 66 tackles, 8.5 for a loss and 4.5 sacks, this fiery prospect brings the heat on every single snap, displaying some fantastic sideline-to-sideline speed. If the Eagles lose Jordan Hicks, it will be down to Paul Warrilow and Nigel Bradham to keep the linebacker group together, while Malcolm Jenkins presumably evaporates that third role in nickel formation looks. Bush would be a long-term solution who could start right away for the Eagles as a polished run defender, complementing Bradham's skill set and offering some much-needed flexibility in a drying linebacker spot. With their first of 2 second-round picks, I've got the Eagles selecting Draymond Jones, a defensive tackle out of Ohio State. And bizarrely enough, a disappointing combine is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Eagles. This defensive tackle spot is as deep as any in this year's class, and it's actually seen some huge changes in momentum, with an injury to Jeffrey Simmons spearheading the way for guys slightly lower down the pecking order being pushed up into the higher rounds. There's no reason to reach here, and the Eagles can happily sit back into the second, knowing they can get a guy as powerful as Jones with that 53rd overall pick. He's someone that has an electric first step and shoots into gaps fearlessly. Strong footwork and a nice array of jab steps help him fire into the backfield with ease, denting the chests of offensive linemen in the process. He's a pass rush specialist in every sense of the word, and you can take note of that with his 8.5 sack, 13 tackle for a loss season in 2018. While his lack of size can hurt him as a run defender, the Eagles aren't drafting him to be that. They want someone who can get into the backfield and finally cause havoc, detracting attention away from Fletcher Cox. And when you've got some speedy defensive ends who absolutely decimate in NASCAR packages, why not add a slightly lighter defensive tackle who can bring just as much explosiveness and really pressure the quarterback? Now, why aren't we going for a run defender? Why aren't we replacing Timmy Jernigan? I'll touch on that a little bit later, but this is a defensive tackle they picked earlier to put into those situational spots and absolutely harass opposing signal callers. Alright, let's stop beating around the bush. The Eagles need a speed guy, and after 3 years of trying to desperately fill that void, it's time they actually invest some substantial resources to do so instead of trying to get one on the cheap. Enter 6'2", 200-pound receiver Emmanuel Hall out of Missouri. After blazing the combine with a 4.39 40-yard dash, everybody knew that was going to be the case coming into it. Hall gives you the best bang for your buck in this scenario. He averaged 22 yards per reception last year. He's not the most well-rounded receiver in this class, and he's certainly not the most physical. In fact, he has a tendency to get knocked off his route during the stem on kind of shallower looks, but at the end of the day, the Eagles have a direct need for someone who can vertically stretch the defense, and that is exactly what Hall brings to the table. He's great at gaining separation from the line of scrimmage, has quick feet, is able to use his hands really frantically at the line to gain that separation, and all Carson Wentz needs right now is a receiver that can take the top off a defense reliably and force a safety to sit back and account for him, and that is exactly what Hall will bring to the table. You don't need to take a wide receiver in the first round, and on the other end of it, you don't want to underinvest like someone like Shelton Gibson or Mac Hollins that we've seen in recent years. Hall's price gives you enough of an investment where you have to follow through on it, you have to game plan him into the offense, and that for me is the type of commitment the Eagles need to make to really take their offense to the next level. So Emmanuel Hall for me is a no-brainer if he's still on the board in this spot. Without a third round pick, the Eagles have to be sure that they can get the talent they want in the later rounds, and I feel like offensive tackle is one of those areas. They love developing through the draft, and they're in a bit of a weird spot right now, where nobody's really sure if Vaitai is the heir to Jason Peters' throne, and a development of Jordan Mailata would be so unexpected to see him immediately elevate into a starter. You need that bridge, and that's where I think this man, Tytus Howard out of Alabama State, really comes into play. He's 6'5", 322 pounds, and has gone from playing quarterback to receiver to tackle. He's got a trait of athleticism which very few people will match at the next level, and he is so quick out of his stance in run defense because of that previous experience. Now, in terms of his hand placement and his length, those are two very viable concerns, but this is someone who, very much like Donald Penn, could potentially seek a role as a scoring tackle in such a creative offense. We know Doug Peterson has got this mind where he wants to be unconventional, and someone of Tytus Howard's skill set, where he's freakishly athletic, he's got the size to play tackle, could be a gadget offensive lineman, if that's such a thing. With their second 4th round pick, the Eagles take a running back, and this is one of my draft crushes of this year. Texas A&M's Travion Williams became the first true freshman in Aggies history to run for over 1,000 yards, and since then has proven himself as one of the SEC's most reliable runners. In his junior season in 2018, he really showcased his versatility, ending that year with a stunning 1,524 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns on 252 carries. He also caught 27 passes for 278 yards, and he's a deceptively quick back who has no problem playing mind games with acceleration. Some see him as a running back that doesn't quite have that second level speed, but I see the opposite. This is a man who can turn on the afterburners at a moment's notice and punish defenders who take lazy angles. He's not the most dynamic runner, but he's someone that has a great lateral speed about him, and in this type of offense where it's getting to the outside beyond the tackles, it's being patient with the ball in the hands and the vision to see where those holes open up, I think Williams is a perfect fit. He's proven himself against SEC defenses for 3 years now, and while he's not the bell cow back that the Eagles need just yet, in this bizarre situation where they've got a multitude of skill sets, Williams blends them all into one and will be the closest thing the Eagles have as a piece to build around when shaping this backfield for the future. We've left it late, there's no Nasir Adderley, but the Eagles will take a safety in this draft and look no further than Sheldrick Redwine. Now, I scoured this safety class to see where is the highest floor, highest ceiling, and I think Redwine genuinely has it. After a huge combine, he could have fans love drunk. Sorry, I had to make the pun there. He's a downhill safety who hits extremely hard and has the size and range needed to hold his own as a single high. And when you think about how the Eagles deploy their safeties, what they want from them, Redwine is that perfect fit. He's a huge guy, he's got a great frame about him. He had 64 tackles, 3.5 for a loss, 3 sacks and 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble during 2018. Now, if that doesn't give you a well-rounded idea of a well-rounded prospect, I don't know what will. Redwine is sort of like the jack of all trades. He can play man coverage, he can pick up those bigger, more intimidating receivers, and he has no problem storming downhill to get down and dirty in the run game. I think this could be a fantastic developmental prospect for the Eagles, which is what they're calling for. At the end of the day, someone like Nasir Adderley is a day one starter. I don't think they need that right away. McLeod can hold his own. There is a plentiful free agency class which we're going to dip into in another video. I think a developmental talent like Redwine would be the ultimate fit in this year's draft. As we enter round 6, we finally get that solution to the defensive tackle problem, and the answer is, it's more than one. If we look back on 2017, the Eagles really missed that production from Bo Allen and Destiny Vial. They couldn't replicate it in 2018, and without Timmy Jernigan playing most of the season, Haloti Ngata's durability came into effect, and they really were struggling for depth. So instead of having one elite defensive tackle in the first round, why not try and pick and poach in that second round and below, and then sign a free agent or two, maybe perhaps trade for a big name, someone like Sheldon Richardson, to come in and give you a complete picture. I think Watts has the versatility to play wherever needed along the defensive line, and that will have Jim Schwartz salivating. He led the team with 3 forced fumbles and 7 sacks alongside 49 tackles and 8.5 for a loss. This is someone that doesn't have elite size, but that's what lends itself, similarly to what we saw earlier in this video, to playing to those outside roles. His accurate hand placement and an ability to stride into the backfield with power stands out on tape. Now, the problem with Watts is he does have a lack of experience, and that could come back to haunt him. He has the power, the frame and the size to take on double teams, and that will allow the rest of the defensive line to feast, just as it did in 2018. But if we're looking at this from a logical perspective, That's all the Eagles need. They don't need to be trying to find a starter in the 6th round. They don't need to try and force it, because you won't find that kind of production. Watts would fill what they lost in Via, would fill what they lost in Beau Allen, and just act as almost a change of pace defensive tackle, but someone that can bring the heat, can bring the fire and that intensity on any given snap. The wear on the tyres is thin. This will hopefully give the Eagles some longevity out of this pick, and while he won't be a gap-filling run defender, he will detract enough attention off the shoulders of Cox in the defensive ends to at least inject some explosiveness into the front four. And with their final pick in this year's draft, the Eagles pick up Easton Stick, quarterback, North Dakota State. He will reunite with his former Jedi Master Carson Wentz, and while quarterback may be a need for the Eagles, it may not be, we're not really sure. Nick Foles is entering free agency. Nate Sudfeld is potentially likely to have a tender placed on him. At the very least, they will need to insert a QB3, a developmental arm, into the mix. Now, Stick's a dual threat quarterback that, like Wentz, helped obliterate the FCS level of college football. He's significantly shorter by about 4 inches, but Stick is also more inaccurate and used to show a tendency to want to do it all. Where have we seen that before? However, that's not so much the case anymore, and he's proven that he can make all the throws in the book, is very athletic and has a strong pocket presence. However, completing just 61% of his passes will have scouts second guessing that ability, and that is where the Eagles quarterback coaching staff comes in. If you look at what they've done with Sudfeld, they've groomed a future backup for Carson Wentz there. Easton Stick has been in that situation before. He has familiarity with many of the concepts that the Eagles will run, and of course with the man currently headlining that offense, Carson Wentz. This is a true developmental talent, and with that Bison offense carrying many of the same traits, I feel like that a rekindling here could be the perfect scenario for the Eagles. It's not going to upset the apple cart, because you know there is a clear pecking order from 1, 2 and 3, and Stick has enough potential to develop that if they do lose Nate Sudfeld due to his new agency or down the line in later years, they've got that contingency plan there of someone they can slot in and really develop into a future backup. But that is it for today's mock draft, guys. What did you think? Were you happy with the picks? Which ones would you change? Who are you hoping the Eagles will target? Are there sleepers that you've got your eye on? I want to hear all about them in the comments. And if you're not part of this community yet, hit that like button, slam subscribe, and join the Philly Sports Network Nation. From myself, Liam Jenkins, you can follow me at Liam Jenkins 21. I'll see you next time.